Hey YouTube, all you diecast fanatics. In this video we're going to talk about a particular casting. I wanted to start out by showing Greenlight has three vintage half-ton pickups if you don't count the early F100, which I'm not a fan of that tooling. It's a high-speed tooling, and there's only a few of those that I like. The ones that came from Malibu. Anyways, this is the Dodge D100. I'm not particularly a fan, although there are a few releases of this truck, like this one here, that I think look really good. This was a hitch and tow. It was an early hitch and tow release, and it came with the Airstream Bambi. The green machine on this one is unique because it's a green body, but only the truck is green. The trailer is not. I did have it at one point, and it's unfortunate I got rid of it because it's a pretty good one to have right now. But anyways, at least I have the truck. This is my favorite Dodge pickup, vintage Dodge pickup that Greenlight has put out. Now they don't do this one very often any longer. It's made a few appearances in the Running on Empty, but it really is a casting we haven't seen much of lately. It's one of the castings that they have that I would really like to see lifted. And another one I'd really like to see lifted is the C10. This is the Chevy half-ton truck. And Greenlight's been doing both of these for quite a long time. I think the Chevy has been pretty much since the beginning, and the Dodge came not too far after. There are some different configurations for this tooling based on the year. Body style is the same, the tooling is the same, but the difference is going to be in the grill. And that's true with a lot of Greenlight castings. They make these grill inserts that allow them to change up the year. So, and then the newest half-ton classic truck is the Ford F100. And this is the one that I want to talk about in this video. There's a lot of things that I have to say about this particular casting. So, without further ado, let me get these kind of situated real quick, and then I'll try to work through this as fast as possible. It's excuse me, the casting is, I want to say, about 18 months old. Might be closer to 2 years, but it's not. It's a relatively new tooling from Greenlight, and I have around 20 of them, and I'm missing probably a dozen. So it's a casting that they have really been aggressive with, and I don't think it would be such a bad thing if they had the build quality under control, which they don't. When they first started putting this truck out, I think the build quality and the fit and finish was pretty good. But as of late, there's been a lot of issues with the bed. And here's an example of that. You can see that massive bed tilt on what would otherwise be a nice truck. I don't mind a little bit of bed tilt from time to time because it actually can be an authentic representation on a 50-year-old truck. It's not uncommon to see old trucks like that with the beds tilting, just because of the way it's sitting on the frame, or it could have something to do with the suspension. I don't know what different things could cause it, but all I'm saying is I've seen plenty of old trucks that have the beds that are not straight or not level. Now, I want to talk real quick before we go through all these about these wheels, because these wheels, I don't like these wheels, but they are authentic to the truck. It's an OEM wheel, and I have to appreciate when Greenlight does that. M2 also did the OEM wheel. I think M2 did a better job capturing the look of the wheel. And it really pains me to say this, but I think in general, I think M2 did a better job on this casting. I hate to say that, guys. I really hate to say it, but that's just the truth. Anyways, let's go through these and then I'll explain why I feel that way. So, this casting has shown up in many different series, ranging from everything really, from Hollywood to Running on Empty to All Terrain to Hitch and Tow, HD Trucks. It's been in the Anniversary series. There's been at least a couple hobby exclusives. It never made it into Country Roads because that series had discontinued by the time this tooling came out. It was in Black Bandit. It hasn't yet been in Hot Pursuit, although I would love to see this tooling in Hot Pursuit. It's been in Blue Collar. So it's made the rounds. You can see here they've been very aggressive with the tooling. So we'll just kind of look at a few of them. I guess I'll start with this Texaco truck because many of these have the roached out look, like it's been sitting for a long time, or like it's just been beaten. You know, this is the number one selling pickup truck of all time, number one in the world, not just in the US. It's the best selling truck in the history of the planet Earth. And there's a reason for that. It's got a great lineage. It's had a really good reputation for a long time. Even during that period of time from like 1980 all the way through like the late 90s when American cars were awful, especially Ford in particular. They just didn't have a very good reputation. But the Ford truck was always exempt from that. It was still the number one selling truck. So it does have a good reputation. And I've owned, I think I just owned one F-150. I had a Dodge Ram too. I don't really favor one of those over the other. I had less issues with the Ford, but both of them were pre-owned, high miles, so I can't really attribute that to anything. Let's just say I really enjoyed both trucks, and I'm not partial towards either one. In fact, you could throw a Chevy in there, and I like them all. I think from a styling standpoint, I like the Dodge Ram the best these days. But anyways, getting off track here. A lot of rust effect on this, and I do like that. Not very sure how I feel about these side view mirrors on this truck. I don't think it's necessary on 1:64 scale cars to put side view mirrors on the car if it's not part of the casting. In other words, if it's not part of the tool, then I don't like when it's extra pieces like this. I'm not a huge fan of it. Even with Kyosho and TLV, I'm not a big fan of it because it doesn't take much for those to come off. This one, I don't remember the release. I think this was an anniversary release, and I really like these hubcaps with the spokes. I like the deco on this. This is an authentic OEM deco. The two-tone red and white. Very nice truck. These particular trucks in this video range from 1967 all the way up to, I want to say 1972. This one here was from Hitch and Tow. It's made a couple appearances in the Hitch and Tow series. This truck, the driver mirror popped off, so I removed the passenger mirror. Also did a wheel swap. I didn't intend for these wheels to go onto this truck. It just so happened to end up that way. And there's a good possibility that these wheels will not stay on this truck. But for now, that's where they are. I think it looks okay. I think it looks pretty good. Now, there is a notorious issue with these trucks, and you're all well aware of it, I'm sure, and that is the bed tilt. Early on, when they first started releasing this casting, there didn't seem to be a lot of issues with that. But it seems like lately, and when I say lately, the last 8 months or so, there seems to have been a noticeable decline in the quality of the build quality of Greenlight cars. I don't know what it can be attributed to. I know they're putting out more diecast than they ever have in their history. This one has bed tilt and it has a hood issue. What I do like about this hood, though, is it opens up nice and wide as it would on the actual truck. If you look at the two, the blue one is far more accurate as far as how it opens up in real life. But I don't care. Little details like that, I don't get too caught up in. Honestly, I could take it or leave it with articulating parts of any kind. I don't remember which release this one was, but I think it was running on empty. It's a nice deco. I like the flat blue. I love the STP logo. One of my favorite bands of all time is the Stone Temple Pilots, and they stole that logo. I don't even think they had to pay for it. I don't know how that works with that. But yeah, 3 favorite bands of my life, and they're all 3 kind of tied for number 1, would be Stone Temple Pilots, Metallica, and Nirvana. I don't know how I'm getting sidetracked in this video. Anyways, I love the color. I love the flat blue. It's got the vinyl, a really nice looking simulated vinyl tonneau cover with the STP graphic on it. I apologize for the shaky camera. Going to see, if you look at that tonneau cover, I'm trying to get it in the right light. There's a thumbprint on there, but you can see the texture of it, how it really is textured as an authentic, as a real tonneau cover would be. It's very, very cool that Greenlight has done that. They did it on this one too. The tonneau cover's the same tooling, but if you hit it at the right angle, you can see the little detail of the tonneau cover. Anyways, this one, another one of my favorites, another anniversary release. Really like this deco. And then as we move along, this one, actually both of these, These two have potential to be the most valuable of all of these. And the main reason for that is because these were both only available in dioramas. And I don't know, for all you Greenlight collectors, just make a note of that. Diorama cars, get them, hold on to them, because down the road, those are going to be some of the more valuable, harder to get Greenlight castings. I like the deco on this. I like the wheels. I can't stand the bed tilt. This was I don't remember which one came out first, but this is one of two with the Motorcraft livery. They did it once here with the two-wheel drive, and then they did it once with the lifted four-wheel drive. Also, this is the only time that this truck has ever been released with this toolbox. And the toolbox is a totally different tool than the toolbox used for the Chevy and Dodge. Okay, this one here is also a diorama truck. I hated this thing when I first saw it. I almost traded it. I'm so glad I didn't. So glad I didn't. It's very authentic to the time, even though it may not look like it. I know these little wheels and tires look very questionable, but that is authentic to the time period. It was uncommon back then to see trucks like this lifted, let alone lifted with big knobby off-road tires. Now, again, I cannot stand the bed tilt. It's horrible, it's unacceptable, it's an eyesore, but other than that, I like the truck. It's grown on me. I did a little bit of research and found that that actually is an authentic look to the era. It's a 1972, and I just have a different appreciation for it. But it's just horrible how bad that bed tilt is. And again, side view mirrors. I'm not real big on the side view mirrors on this casting. So before we finish up with the two-wheel drive, we'll look at a few of the four-wheel drive. So this one here was the first release of this tooling with the lifted suspension. No bed tilt issues here. This thing lines up. It looks, I think, fantastic. I love the deco on it. I love the Ford ribbon. I'm digging the Ford Racing badging and the accessories that this truck comes complete with. Got the brush guard there on the front. Lifted suspension, off-road tires, aftermarket wheels. And then in the back you have the roll bar with the spare tire rack. You do get a full-size rubber spare. Not a lot of Diecast brands do that with their spare tires, but Greenlight does. And yeah, so that was the first time that they brought this casting out with the lift, and it was a huge hit. So since this has come out, so before this came out, the only trucks that they offered with a lifted suspension was the Ford Bronco and the late model half-ton trucks, the Dodge Ram, the Chevy Silverado, and the Ford F-150. Since then, they did a suspension tooling for the Dodge Ram Charger and gave that a lift option. So now I'm just hoping that they do it with the Jeep Wrangler, the Dodge D100, and the Chevy C10. Honestly, any casting that they have that is four-wheel drive, I want to see a lifted option. Funny thing about it, though, They didn't change the base, which I don't care, honestly. It's a two-wheel drive base, but who cares? That base could be completely flat, and I wouldn't feel any differently about it. You know, to me, with these 1/64 scale cars, base detail is so irrelevant. I wish that these companies would put zero time and zero money into the base and take any time and money that you might put into the base and put it up here into this part of the casting, like Kyosho does. Some of the nicest looking cars in the world have a smooth, flat base. And personally, I would like to see more of it. So, anyways, where I'm going with that, I don't care that this is a 4x4 truck without a transfer case. That doesn't bother me. The second time that was released with the lifted suspension was this Mount Evans Colorado truck. I love that. I love the mud. I love the weathered look. You've got some paint removal. That is not from Playware. That is from the factory. I also really dig the Colorado plate. Oh yeah, I forgot to show you guys this. Check this out. So of all of these trucks, 2 of them have Colorado plates. This one has a period correct license plate. Period correct as in 1972. This one, though it's an old truck, has a modern plate. Now, it could also be a vintage plate because the Colorado plate has changed a couple times and they've gone back and forth with the white and green where they just invert it. So while that is their current plate, it could also be period correct. But anyways, interesting to note that 2 of these have Colorado plates. There are also some Jeep Wranglers that have Colorado plates and a couple of Ford Broncos that have Colorado plates. I don't believe any of the cars have Colorado plates except for maybe some of the Colorado police cars. Anyways, after that was the Motorcraft one. The green machine of this is beautiful. It's probably the best green machine of all of these. Basically, where this one is red, that one is green, and it looks phenomenal. But I like this truck as it is with the Motorcraft Deco. It has very much like a Baja racing type of a look to it. This displays, it looks so good on display. All of these lifted trucks display really nice. This one, though, you got to be careful with the bed tilt because while I don't think this one has a whole lot of it, if there's any, it breaks that white line and it just makes it look like it's worse than it is. This white banner is supposed to go up at an angle, but if your bed is tilting down, it'll go up and then it'll bend here, and it just doesn't look good. So I wish Greenlight would get it together with this casting and fix that issue. The latest one that I got was the new all-terrain, and the bed was it was bent so bad, I threw it in the trash. I took the wheels off of it, I took the brush guard and the roll bar out of it, and I threw it in the trash. That's how bad it was. This one here is also really bad, but not nearly as bad as that one was. So this one I did decide to keep. It looks kind of like a Red Bull Deco, but it's actually not. That is the Pegasus. Your vintage petrochemical people out there. I really dig this truck too. If it wasn't for the bed tilt issue, it's a great deco. And of course, anytime they put this casting out with this configuration, I'm always a fan. And when I say this configuration, I mean lifted suspension, brush guard, roll bar, spare tire. It's a great look. Now this truck, when I pulled it out of the package, this bumper was not attached. But with 2 tiny dabs of super glue, it ain't going anywhere now. It's probably the most secured bumper of any of these trucks. Really cool truck. I like it. Also got the number right there on the corner of the hood. This is another Baja style truck. Kind of like the Baja Broncos and the Baja Ram Charger that they did. So I would love to see some other Baja stuff. We've seen the Baja Z. That one's pretty cool. Anyways, back to the two-wheel drive. This one came out in hitch and tow. Did not come out with the flatbed trailer, though. It was I think it was a pop-up camper. I think it came with a pop-up camper, if I remember correctly. So, nice deco on this truck, though. I love this OEM. It's an OEM deco with factory colors. But my favorite of all of these trucks, including the lifted ones, is this one right here. This is my favorite. I think this is the best job that Greenlight has done. And I'll start by saying the first reason it's my favorite is because the bed is perfectly straight. The second reason it's my favorite is because of the deco. We've got the faded flat color paint job, and it is very weathered. There are subtle spots of rust, which my camera doesn't do a great job of pulling out. Nice rust effect on the wheels, rust on the quarter panels, period correct tire tread. That's a subtle detail that I don't think a whole lot of people notice. Doesn't matter much on the bottom, but where it's noticeable to me is on like right where it meets the sidewall. And I think that's a Minnesota plate. I'm not sure. I'm not sure where the show takes place. But this is from Greenlight Hollywood from the show Supernatural. The truck has a great stance. It just looks fantastic. And I think the biggest reason for that is the wheels and tires. It's the only one of any of these trucks that has these wheels and tires. And they don't inhibit the truck's ability to roll whatsoever. They give it the best looking stance, in my opinion. It just, to me, is by far the best looking truck. And a lot of it has to do with those wheels and tires. I wish they would get away from these, even though these are prototypical. I wish they would get away from it and go to more of a steely look, which is still a relatively authentic look. I would like them, however, to keep the spoked hubcaps, because those, to me, look fantastic as well. So, anyways, I think this one was Blue Collar. This was Black Bandit. This is Running on Empty. This is Anniversary Series. That is Hitch and Tow. I think that one's Running on Empty. I think that one is also Blue Collar. Anniversary, Diorama. All Terrain. All 4 of those are all terrain. Actually, 3 of those are all terrain. The cream-colored Mount Evans truck was a Running on Empty. And then back here we have Hitch and Tow, Hollywood, and HD trucks. Didn't show this truck here, but same tooling as far as the cab goes, but it's a different base because of the ramp And because it's a different base, it has a little bit higher suspension in the front. This is an F350, but it is the same tooling from the cab forward. It looks bigger because it's sitting up higher, but that is actually the same tool. I'm not sure about the scale and proportion. That's a Fiat on the back, and to me that Fiat looks way too big relative to the truck. Even sitting next to it, it looks too big. So I think there's a little bit of a proportion issue there. I could be wrong. It's just the way I see it. Fiats are very small cars, and that is a very small car, so I could be wrong, but I don't know. I still like it. Another thing, we're already at 31 minutes. Geez. One other thing I wanted to go over real quick is I wanted to compare. It's one of the very few toolings or castings that I think M2 has done a better job than Greenlight is this F100. And I will show you, or I will demonstrate that here with the M2 example. Now, when M2 releases this truck as a two-wheel drive, I do not like the way that it looks because it's a long bed and that Greenlight is a short bed. So when you have the long bed as a two-wheel drive sitting that low to the ground, to me it looks really bad. But when you put a lift on it, I think it looks fantastic. So I would really like to see Greenlight do this truck with a nice civilian deco and a lift. But kind of gives you an idea. The M2 tires are probably more scale accurate, although I do think they would look a little bit better if they were a little bit wider. Not necessarily as wide as the Greenlight, but just a little bit wider than they are. Now, for all of you that keep track of scale, like I try to, it's not it's not a secret that M2 castings tend to run closer to 1 to 58, even up to 1 to 55 in some cases. This casting, however, is very, very close to true scale for 1 to 64. My first impression was, wow, the M2 tooling is so much bigger than the Greenlight, but I have to tell you that is not the case. They are actually pretty much the same exact size. The M2 is a smidgen bigger, but it's not nearly as much bigger as you would think. And really, the only place that it is bigger is in the cab. The front end and the hood is pretty much identical. If anything, I think you could say the Greenlight is bigger. But where the M2 is noticeably bigger is in the cab. You can see there's a lot more roofline on the M2. And you can see how the M2 just sits back maybe a quarter of a centimeter. It's not much, but... And then, obviously, the bed is different because the M2 is a long bed and the Greenlight is a short bed. But if you look at the drone view, they are pretty much... I mean, if I cut the beds off, pretty much the same size. And same thing if I go bumper to bumper. The width, they're the same width. So Greenlight and M2 both nailed that part of it in my opinion. Now M2 does something that Greenlight does not. I'm not going to do it on this one, but I will do it on this one. Since this one is already open anyways. I did a tire swap. I put the Goodyear white walls on that one. But M2 does have the opening door feature, which your boy right here couldn't care less about. I'm actually anti-open doors. I wouldn't care so much if they didn't cause so many problems with the castings. But M2 hasn't figured it out yet how to do it right. So particularly with M2, I'm not a fan, but I'm really not a fan of opening doors with anybody, any diecast company. I think 1:64 scale is too small to be doing opening doors. I don't mind opening hoods because everybody, for the most part, seems to have those figured out. But opening doors, I don't think anybody has those figured out. And another M2 issue is their build quality, which historically has been the worst, but it pains me to say it. I think Greenlight has kind of earned themselves a spot on that podium. I wouldn't say Greenlight's worse than M2. I definitely wouldn't say that. I think M2 is the worst build quality, but Greenlight has worked their way up to that number 2 spot. And they've earned it, so they can wear that for what it is, and hopefully they can make note of it and try to correct it, because there was once upon a time when Greenlight had the absolute best build quality. If you go back to early Greenlight stuff, the build quality was so much better than even Auto World, Johnny Lightning. It was the best build quality at one time. And now it's one of the worst. So anyways, this is a pretty close example here of similar colors. I'm not sure if they're trying to replicate the same OEM colors or not. But both of these they're the two closest colorways that I have from M2 and Greenlight. Under the hood, for sure M2 has more detail. M2 has a radiator, a battery, and Greenlight has a radiator and a battery and all that stuff, but it's all part of the mold, which is okay. I don't care about this kind of detail with these cars. Honestly, I just care about the look, the overall general look of the car. The things that I look at, it's actually something that's probably worth mentioning. When I look at a diecast car, I rate it, my opinion of the car on a few things: the overall general look, the deco, the stance, and the wheels and tires. Those are the 4 criteria. And the stance and wheels and tires kind of go hand in hand, but I absolutely cannot stand diecast that have the wheels sitting so far in the wheel well. That's like my biggest pet peeve in diecast. And that's really the biggest reason why I don't collect a lot of Johnny Lightning, is because they are notorious for doing that. Greenlight has a couple of castings that are prone to it, but nothing like Johnny Lightning. So anyways, that is going to wrap this video up. 40 freaking minute video. Jeez. Um, Greenlight Ford F100. It's a good casting. It's not their best, but the good thing about this casting is it has a lot of potential. When Greenlight wants to, they can make it one of the best. But when they want to, they can also make it one of the worst. So it really just depends on the fit and finish of the final assembled product. Anyways, thank you for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. I will holler at the next one.